What's up guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Realistic Career Mode. It's episode number 86 and it's transfer deadline day. Well, with £26 million in the budget, we still had a bit of cash to play with in the final 10 hours of the window. But the question was, were we going to be able to do anything with the money? Now, we've already spent over £500 million on rebuilding this Barcelona side, and yet we are still currently in transition. We had a bid here for Perez Garay, one of our new gen/regen centre-halves, which we rejected a loan bid from Famalicão, and also Ter Stegen approached by Hertha Berlin. Knockoff bid though for the German. I know he's 34 years old now, but come on mate, seriously, way under the valuation. And also a loan offer for Riasco, a young new gen/regen Ecuadorian striker, and also one for Thiago Moraes as well. Now, we managed to loan out Riasco, and as we mentioned before, we do sometimes see youth players go out on loan and develop really quickly, like Lalong at RC Lens with Arsenal. Obviously, I think the most famous example I've got this year in FIFA is probably Charlie Kelman's loan spell to Lille. Do you remember that? When he grew like 11 ratings or something stupid in one season. But unfortunately, Thiago Moraes' deal fell through. And this is not a surprise. This has been the common theme and the same problem we've had all throughout the transfer window. We get bids for our players on the transfer list very often. But the problem we've got is that the players are on such high salaries that no clubs are willing to take on their contracts. And I kind of like it as well. It's quite realistic. You know, we've seen that the big problem Barcelona had this summer, losing Messi to Paris Saint-Germain, that was because of the wage structure and the wage bill for La Liga as well. I think I read as well, Karim Benzema agreed to like a 50% wage cut, or is provisionally going to agree to a 50% wage cut at Real Madrid. Obviously, Messi just couldn't reduce his salary enough to meet La Liga regulations, so that's why he ended up leaving on a free transfer to join Paris Saint-Germain. But I kind of like it. You know, we've got the same sort of problem here. We've got a lot of players, but on really high contracts, and that's why we can't shift them on, so we're sort of left with them right now. But anyway, I tried to sign Pau Lopez from Liverpool. Unfortunately, Klopp just wasn't playing ball, and as for Hertha Berlin as well. Unai Simon, the former, is it Bilbao goalkeeper, has now gone to the Olympiastadion. And I tried to negotiate a deal with the Germans as well, but unfortunately just couldn't get one done. 51.6 mil is what we were quoted, and quite frankly, we just didn't have the money. So it was a really frustrating transfer deadline day because, again, we raised just under 200 million for all the sales with this Barcelona team as we try and continue this transition as quickly as we can, and spent over £500 million on our 10 new signings. Two of the three most expensive signings of the window were actually our first two signings with Barcelona, which I thought was really interesting. Ansu Fati returning to the new camp for 170 mil. Camavinga went to Inter from PSG, but also Cucurella's transfer from Getafe to us as well was the third highest deal of the transfer window. But again, a really frustrating deadline for us because we just could not sell those players that I really wanted to, you know. So there are still players here like Thiago Moraes and Fagir and Sesko still here. You know, we just can't get rid of these guys because their contracts are so high and no clubs are willing to take on their ridiculous salaries per week. So that has been the problem for us. And when you speak about weekly wages as well, can I say too that with Messi being willing to reduce his wage as much as he was, unfortunately it still wasn't going to be enough for La Liga regulations. Benzema again agreeing at 50% pay cut. Then, of course, after the pandemic last season, as you see, Arsenal negotiated a 47.5 mil deal for us for Botman, as he might be joining Hassem at the Emirates Stadium, as former Barcelona players linking up at the Emirates. Last season, due to the pandemic, we saw so many players in the Premier League take wage cuts and agree to wage cuts. And, you know, for all the stick that footballers get for being on such high salaries and earning mega money, you got to remember, it's the club that are willing to pay that. Like, if the club are willing to pay that amount of money for the player, it's not the players' fault. You know, if the player and the agent negotiate, let's say £100,000 a week, that's up to the club. If they want to pay that, then so be it, you know. So for all the stick that players get, for so many of them agreeing to take wage cuts when they had no obligation to. They didn't need to take wage cuts last season. They could have just said, well, the pandemic is not my fault, I'm still getting paid under contract. The fact so many players are willing to, again, cut their salaries, and we saw with Messi wanting to do his, but it wouldn't have been enough anyway. And also, again, Karim Benzema, you know, a world star, being at Real Madrid for God knows how many years now, just an elite striker on his day, being willing to sacrifice half his paycheck for the benefit of the club. I think, again, sometimes footballers get so much stick for the money they earn, but again, you know, you got to realise it's the clubs that put them on that salary, and so many of them are willing to make sacrifices when required to do so. But still, following out, we saw there was a bid for Raheem Sterling as well. Manchester United wanted to take him, and I thought, God, the bids we've had for Sterling, and I love Sterling, man, one of my favourite players in the Premier League. But honestly, I'm totally fine, obviously, selling him to raise a bit more money to try and rebuild this team with younger players and also develop that Spanish core. But the three bids we've had, Watford, just couldn't see it happening. Now he's 31 years old. Real Madrid, our El Clasico rivals, and Manchester United when he's played for Liverpool and Manchester City. Like, seriously, I thought like the three most unrealistic clubs. Well, maybe not Watford, but you know what I mean. They're like two of the three most unrealistic clubs they could go to, Sterling could go to, and we got bids from those three in the summer window. But even so, we'll keep him for now, because again, at 88 overall, 31 years old, he's still a very valuable squad member. But again, we're looking to rebuild this team with younger players and develop that Spanish core as well. But I do love Sterling. They're one of my favourite players and so good on the game as well. But still, 41st game outside the transfer window on the back of winning our last two in La Liga after losing on the opening day. We took on SD Huesca here at the Nou Camp. We took lead very early, and then Ansu Fati bagged his fourth goal in as many games. And I've got to be honest here, when I looked at this Barcelona team with the star-studded lineup and all the incredible attacking players, Moise Kean, who scored our first, Dembele, who scores our third, we've got Trincao, Oyarzabal and Raheem Sterling all coming off the bench. Never mind 85 rated Tammy Abraham. I was thinking this season, who's going to be our main goal scorer? Well, I think we got the answer already just 4 games in. 4 goals already for the big £170 million man, Ansu Fati. And this is why, again, I mentioned I wouldn't have been against him, against training him and changing his position to striker, because this guy is just lethal in front of goal. But I think on that left-hand side, stepping and shoot on the right, as he's done so far this season, that is going to be his best position and role as an inside forward. He's certainly proving that at the moment, 4 goals in 4, and again, at the moment, the favourite to win La Liga Golden Boot, of course it is. Very early days indeed. Still, for the second and final game of today's episode, on the back of the big win there, Antalya Sport away in Turkey for our first Champions League game with Barca, making our debut away in Turkey for match day 1 in the group. I said when the group was drawn, Antalya Sport, Manchester United and PSV, I feel very, very confident of making it through. Whether it's group winners or runners-up, not entirely sure just yet, but feel confident of at least making the last 16. So heading into match day 1, no slip-ups on the opening night. That's what I wanted. A big performance away in Turkey and a big one as well. Took the lead very early on through Moise Kean, making it 1-0. However, our first bit of bad news of the season, to go along with a loss as well on match day 1. 12 minutes in, Tapsoba goes up for an aerial duel, comes off second best, stays on the field but would not run off the injury fully. So again, just like with Arsenal, I do expect quite a few injuries, as we'll have so many games this season playing in all those domestic games, going for again possibly a domestic treble like we almost won with Arsenal back in season 2 with the Gunners, and also of course going for the Champions League as well, being asked to win the treble this season. Again, took lead early through Moise Kean, and 22 minutes in, Frenkie de Jong scores his second goal of the season, and what a cross by Pedro Porro as well. I mentioned before, him and Cucurella coming in, they were honestly as important as Fati has been since signing. 4 goals and 4, and look like our best signing so far. Cucurella and Pedro Porro are just as important as the £170 million man to really give us defensive stability down the flanks, but also as well, and going forward, they look so creative as well. What a ball by Porro there, as he got the assist for our second goal. Frenkie de Jong's header making it 2-0. Right before the break, could have gone 3-0, or Oyarzabal firing toward the post. It was still 2-0 in this game. You wouldn't notice into the game as well, we had Zubeldia captaining the side. The game before that was Tapsoba, and you would have noticed so far this season, every single game we've had a different captain. I don't know who should be our club captain here at Barcelona this season. I really don't know. I think at the moment I'm probably leaning more towards Frenkie de Jong than anyone. But then Ter Stegen, then there's the academy graduates that have returned, Ansu Fati, the talisman. I really don't know. Pedro's still been here since coming from Las Palmas as a teenager. I really don't know who should be captain. So at the moment I'm just rotating it game after game. And until I realise who probably should be the leader, I think that's the strategy I'll continue with. Regardless, it doesn't seem to matter at the moment, because despite losing on the opening day, we have won every single game since then, including this one. Match day 1 in the Champions League ends with a 2-0 victory in Turkey. 2 goals early on to the game. Moise Kean and Frenkie de Jong, our goal scorers, and what a great start for Barcelona. As Fekir's transfer talks break down once again, shock horror. Thankfully, we do see Tapsoba's injury was just a bruised shoulder, so he'll be out for 5 days. But again, great start for Barca. Winning our first game in the Champions League group and 3 wins in our first 4 in La Liga as well. After the very disappointing opening day defeat, we've responded very well since then with a team to watch to start the season off. Villarreal, 100% record to begin La Liga this season. But that was this episode of the Realistic Career Mode, guys. Big thank you for watching. Hope you have enjoyed it, and if you have, then please do drop a like. Much love to you all. Have a fantastic day, and we'll see you for the next episode of the Realistic Career Mode, featuring our first game against Manchester United in the Champions League group very soon.